All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Jean-Luc Pierite yet again for the 2025 Indigenous Gulf Stream, doing a response for one of our open content calls in this slot. Tonight, I'm really happy. I'm really excited because this is a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a few years now. So it's really really fortunate to have the time and space to be able to do this. Earlier this year, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. Earlier this year, an article in the Verite News talked about New Orleans residents paying homage to enslaved African ancestors, and that includes the Ashe Cultural Arts Center, the RTA, and other groups. And it was led by this picture of Danielle Simpson of Gulfport, Mississippi, who played the djembe. And one of the tying concepts from this photo is his T-shirt, which has "Pour nos ancêtres," for our ancestors. And so we want to kind of like bring in some of that consciousness into this conversation. For Daniel himself, uh, you know, uh, Danielle has roots in the Louisiana and Mississippi Gulf Coast regions. Comes from a family background of Creoles, Jamaicans, African Americans, and Native people. And they each shared important aspects of their culture with them. And of course, we're all here, we're all teachers and learners. And so we're all on our personal journey of identity and kind of coming into ourselves. So with that, Danielle, thank you for joining us. Wanted to start, I know that your personal journey in terms of like how you got involved with Kurivini and all of the different languages that make up Abancha and the Gulf Coast region. That starts in 2009. But I'm going to open up the conversation and give you some space to kind of bring your own life experiences into like how you got into the work.
Okay, so one, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to you know, be here and speak with you. Um, so my journey actually started. Let's see. I'll say this: my before all of this happened, when I was very young, my mother instilled in me a respect, reverence for our culture, especially our Creole culture. Um, it followed with me all through my life. I was a military brat, so I moved from the Gulf Coast region to Germany. From Germany, moved to Montana. Montana back to Mississippi, and then I joined the military. 2003, got sent overseas to Germany, right back to Germany. Um, while I was there, I was away from all the Creole stuff. I didn't really know any other Creole people who were there. Not really. Like maybe one or two. That's about it. Um, let's see. I got involved with Brazilian people, Afro Brazilians particularly, because I was training the martial art of capoeira. What I noticed was their culture was very similar to ours. It felt like you just take the French and Creole and Spanish out and replace it with Portuguese. That's what it felt like to me. The way they would do carnival stuff, even the food, it just everything seemed like an alternate version of our stuff. And I just kind of was like, this feels like home away from home being around them because there was a large amount of Brazilians in Germany.
Mm.
A couple years later, I got involved with Christophe Landry and Cliff Saint Laurent. I met them on MySpace,
Mm.
and they kind of put this spark in me to really research what was going on at home because I had assumed I had not really traveled to Louisiana a whole bunch past New Orleans, I should say. But my family's from New Orleans too, along Mississippi Gulf Coast and New Orleans, but they're from past that. I had assumed that the French and Creole languages were in good shape because I didn't really talk with anybody over there. I was wrong.
Mhm.
Well, I could already speak French. At that time, I didn't know Creole yet, but I was already a fluent French speaker. And I was
Mhm.
living near the border of France, so I could use it all the time. I was near France, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So French was right there. It was right next to me. I
Mhm.
was using it every other day, along with German and Portuguese. So when around we were getting nearer to 2009, which was time for me to leave Germany, like Christoph and Cliff and all the other guys who were in this movement, this renaissance, were just showing me more and more stuff, and I was like, man, this is like things are not. It just seems like every time y'all show me something, it just seems like worse and worse and worse. So initially, I had planned to stay in Europe. I was gonna stay there, marry there. I was dating somebody. She was a Creole, but not the same as me. She was Cape Verdean. So I had a Cape Verdean girl I was dating. Wanted to stay there. I was gonna be happy in Europe. But when I saw how bad things were, I said, you know what? I'm I think I'm just gonna come back home. And that is what really made the kaboom, inside here, and it set off a bomb. And I said, I am gonna fight for everything for our people.
Mhm. And what do you remember specifically, like what were some of the things that really showed you when you say like it was a bad situation? What were some of the examples of the things that you were being shown
Um,
that really pushed you to that end?
a lack of ability to speak our heritage languages was like the big one. That was I was always like I had friends in France. I had close friends in France who were like family. Like matter of fact, one of them just left. He was visiting. I showed him New Orleans there. He loved it.
Hmm.
I was trying to explain to them where I live at, people speak French, and they didn't believe me. And like I didn't really have anybody to show them, like other than like Christoph and Cliff and all that. But I had assumed there were much more, and there weren't.
Hmm.
I would run into people. I would meet people. We were doing a lot of networking. I would meet people, and there were a lot of people who weren't Louisiana Creole who thought our culture was interesting. So we would all network in these MySpace groups.
Hmm.
Uh, and the thing was, you have people from say like Martinique and Guadeloupe talking to our people in French, and our
Hmm.
people couldn't reply back. They were like, "Oh, I only know English," you know.
Hmm.
Um, I was one of the ones who knew French, so I could speak with them. But I just said, we got to fix this. We really got to fix this because this is not good. We say we have this francophone heritage and this and the other, and you can't really show it.
Hmm.
Same thing with Creole too. People, not as many people were speaking Creole either. So it
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. So, on my end, the way that this was the way that things happened was my mom being a French and Spanish teacher before she kind of went to the full revitalization of our language, Tunica. Um, but even for her being a French teacher, there was also kind of like some remedial because the French that she was speaking was the French from my great grandmother. And so there were words and things and
Yeah.
sayings that weren't necessarily the Parisian French that we would learn even in public school in New Orleans. And I think that, from that, and then trying to reconcile what was being taught in schools with what was being taught in the families, then we kind of almost kind of come up with a hybrid thing
Yeah.
that, in my experience, when I go to like, say, the Quebecois or like, people in certain parts of France,
Hmm.
they'll, say, oh, okay, well, I don't understand your accent. And then, you know, I'm not going to speak to you. I'm going to speak to you in English. And then that's just a non-starter.
Yeah.
So I think, do you feel like the, sort of maybe there was I don't want to, I know, and I don't want to plant anything, but um, just kind of like part of the reason why people weren't learning about their culture, maybe there is some external forces as well
Mm-hmm.
going out there. External perception is like we're just, it's not good enough. Like even thinking about like
Yes.
Creole as like a pigeon of
Yeah.
French. Like we're not going to be treated as like actual Francophone people. We're just going to be
Mhm.
people that speak a funny language. So, did you kind of get like some of those
Absolutely.
reactions?
Living in near France and Belgium and Luxembourg, everything is so based on Paris. And they would even make fun of the regional accents that weren't from the major metropolitan areas. Somebody from southern France like, oh, why are you talking like that? That's not right. It's not good French. So when I remember my friends seeing a video of a man speaking Louisiana French, and they were just like, this accent sounds terrible. It was an immediate negative reaction because they weren't exposed to it before. Now I did have a friend who did not have a negative reaction. She was like, these just sound like French people from the countryside,
Hmm.
but she was a little more educated on the subject than my other friends were. These are my club buddies. We just go get go get drinks, party, and all that. They're not, scholastic people. So, you know,
Hmm.
she was. So, it was external forces, and that too. I would come back and talk to people, and ask them, "Do you speak French?" We speak that broken French, that broken stuff. So it was
Hmm.
like a really low cultural self esteem, and from people telling them, in school, telling them, "Oh, this is not good. This is the French I learned in college. This is proper French."
Hmm.
People who would come from francophone countries. Oh no, that's not right. It's would they use the words you use are vieilli, old words. They call it old French or whatever, and
Hmm.
it's like not old. It's if we're still using it, it's contemporary French. So yeah,
Hmm.
external forces affecting our own perceptions of who we are and what we speak.
Yeah, they that the but also the words that we have, that's loan words. So it's like our French, our Creole, like the way that we talk, it comes from so many other different sources that they would not understand. One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I remember when we were, messaging back and forth, and it was around the time of, now I say National Day of Mourning. I don't say the T word, the
Yeah.
that last Thursday in November. But
Mm-hmm.
but there was a little meme that was like, oh, do you know that like whichever president it was, like at one point, like they would serve raccoon in the
I know where you're going.
White House, right? And
Good
then
word.
you said, "Oh my, that's crazy. I wouldn't eat shawee or something like that." And I was like, "Wait a minute. Okay, wait. Are you speaking Mobilian?" And it was like, "No, no, no. That's 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 the language." Like, and then we started talking about Cat Island. So I'm really
Yeah.
interested in like, stories like that and like how like words that I know as like indigenous language would have crept into the language that you use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a that was a thing that I enjoyed learning because I had to learn our French from here because I'd learned standard French, and I would pick up, all I would absorb all the stuff my friends were saying, and that was a word that stuck with me because I live near Cat Island,
Hmm.
and you know it wasn't simply just, yes, it is a colonizer language, but like you said, there were so many elements that kind of tether it to where we're at here in our experiences and the words we use, like shawi. You know, it's a Choctaw word or Greater Muskogean word. And then we have things like what is it? Like Wawaron. It comes from up north, up the Mississippi
Oh,
River.
okay, okay.
So, that's a should be a Wendat word, shouldn't it be? And then we have so many words that are like from the various peoples, whether they be Muskogean people, whether they be Siouan people.
Hmm.
Mississippi, the big Mississippian cultures have influenced our French and Creole, and then you have the Central and West African influences all mixed into there. So it's like it tethers our languages to the land. and
Mm-hmm.
I'm at here. I am not French.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Creole from the former territory of Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And my languages are tethered to here by the words we use and the way we say things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so crazy that you brought on because my mom, so it was my great grandfather. He's a Norman, and he would tell my mom like that there's the poem about like, oh, that they're Wawadon, Wawadon, and they're like both sitting on a log, and then and they're both drinking, and then one says, who's gonna be the one to take my wife? And the other one says, it's me, it's me. But it's the poem, but in French. But then my mom is like, yeah, just like you. It's like, well, where did we get that? Like, and exactly like you said, it's a one dot word. It's Iroquois or whichever,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's interesting, and it's like especially like where you are in traditional Tenex
Exactly.
territory. Um, that first contact with Iberville, he's coming down from Canada. He's just fought in like the wars out there. And when they see Biloxi people, the soldiers actually speak to them in Iroquois. And
Uh,
it's interesting because it's like our language is Siouan, but you're going to use this other language. And so that actually kind of like, to me, I'm always like rolling that in my head. It's like, okay, wait a minute. The connections that happen have already happened before white people got in the mix. So, there's all kinds of ways in which all these languages got into the area. So
yeah.
yeah, and
It's,
it's crazy that like, we can like sit like this and swap these stories and be like, wait, you know that? Like
yeah.
that's from my great grandparents, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like,
The connections are, it's. I was talking to someone about that too because where we live at, the connections really transcend race. For better, for worse, it's a range. But I remember, so a friend of mine, she does a lot of research on cultures and things like that here and in the Caribbean.
mm,
And I was telling her, I was like, let me tell you something. You get on all these things where they have like these racial issues on social media, and I'm like, it ain't perfect where I'm from, but it's not uncommon at all for Black, white, and Indigenous Americans to be cousins. All three of us cousins. It just is. And she was like, really? I said, yeah. It's not like when I lived in Montana. Montana was primarily white and Indigenous American, way
mm,
more than Black people up there. Okay, you had reservations that had Indigenous people there, and you had whole towns. Like Browning, Montana, is a town,
mm,
not a reservation, and it's just mostly Native people from the Northwest.
mm,
Um, there's not really a connection with white people there, and obviously
mm,
there's not much Black people up there, so it's not totally different vibe than down here. I was
mm,
like, I have a buddy named Jean-Luc who he could probably point to you various people that don't look anything like him and go, oh, that's my cousin over there. Oh, that's my cousin over there. She was like, really? I said, yeah, that's just normal around here. Everybody's
mm.
cousins. So I love seeing the connections and all that stuff and doing the research and finding out more and more and more. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like what you know, it is it is like, it is a sort of thing of like, oh, they don't look like me, but somehow like I know, like I can
Yeah,
see, and we have these situations, especially in Native community around like folks that that there are folks that are like hunting down supposedly pretendians and everything. And
yeah,
like for me, the way that kinships works is that if I see you and I just know, like, and I can't explain that. It's like, and I guess it's like a little bit of like the New Orleans thing of like, oh, vampires can see each other.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's like that
We
you
know our people. It's odd. I said that before. I said it's not a look, but it is a look. It looks like you look like family. I guess that's the best way to say it. It's not a, if you're dark or light or, it's not a skin tone thing. It's like the face. It's a facial feature, and not necessarily in a racialized sense. It's more in a familial sense. Like you look like you could be my cousin. Who's your mama now?
mhm.
Yep, I know exact. I was explaining that too to outsiders because they don't really get it. I'm like, I think this like when the Pope, when they found out the Pope's roots, I was like,
Yes.
I knew he was one of us. Like,
Yes.
you just know. It's odd. I know what you mean. I can't explain it either. It's just you just kind of know.
Yeah, yeah, that was a crazy experience because I'm leery, especially now about how this country is perceived. And I've always, when I go out, especially like when I was in Barcelona and people were like, "Oh, you're United States just like these other people." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Those are Americans. I'm Native American. Don't lump
Yeah,
me in with that. Even during the Biden years, like I'm not don't put me in
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's just something, and I think too, like with New Orleans, with the Gulf South, like and I heard you speak about this in the Cowrie Shell Archives interview, and it's something that I grew up with as well. Is like the Americans, and then there's us, we the Creole people. Um, and for them, and it comes up in like other languages as well, in other countries as well. It's like, oh, who speaks the three languages? Who speaks the two languages? Who speaks the one language? Oh, that's the Americans,
Hmm.
And we have that, and we have this sense of like being outside and being part of like the Caribbean. And we're so much closer to like Haitians and Puerto Ricans and Cubans and things like that
Hmm.
than, even in other places of Mississippi or Louisiana.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the kinship? Like, and I know you talked about Brazil, but kinship with the Caribbean as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like they feel like family, but there's obvious differences. We're not the same, but similar. We have similar struggles, like linguistic. Decolonization is a big one. You know, our decolonization doesn't all look the same.
Mm,
From individual to individual, it looks different, and then from ethnicity to ethnicity, it looks different. Nation
mm,
to nation, whatever you want to describe it. Um, uh, I feel 100% kinship with them. So there was a guy. His name was Heritage Guadeloupe. Means heritage of Guadeloupe.
mm,
He has the Guadeloupean flag. It's not because Guadeloupe and Martinique are owned by France still, so they
mm,
technically have the French flag, but they don't use that because that's colonial stuff. Anyway, getting back to the point, he tried. We joke and call him the Great Unifier because he went on social media and he just started searching for people who spoke Creole languages or had a Creole identity, French-based Creoles to be specific, and he just followed them. And then he started making Twitter live spaces when it was still called Twitter, live
mm,
spaces, and he would platform everybody. So he was finding everyone and platforming them so everyone could learn who each other were. And next thing you know, like one night, I'd have 90 followers and I wake up and I got 200 followers, all because of
mm,
him. So we would talk and then we would try to see each other's how well we could understand each other's Creole because we all have a language called Creole, but it's different languages. It's not the same. Very similar to how you have all these languages that come from Vulgar Latin, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, Catalan, all of that. There's some mutual intelligibility, but there's still distinct languages. It was like that. We were just kind of feeling each other out and learning from each other. And then we talk about politics, decolonization. Like, for instance, like Haiti was kind of the first one. They had it's a majority black country now. Fortunately, the indigenous people uh, are no more. Um, the black people there named the island Haiti, to
Mm,
honor the people who came before them, the indigenous people of that land. We use Bubancha, like that, for the same reasons, to honor the people, the name that they called it, the people who were from here. In islands like Martinique and Guadeloupe and Dominica, all those lesser Antilles places that speak these French-based Creoles, they started calling their islands the names that the Taino and Kalinago people would use. So I was learning there how they decolonized. So, like, I talked to my friends from Guadeloupe, and they wouldn't always say Guadeloupe. Sometimes they would say Caruquera, because that's how you say the name of the island. Or
mm,
people from Dominica, they wouldn't necessarily say Dominica, they would say Waitukubuli,
mm,
which is a Kalinago word. It means, God, I'm trying to remember, it's like she who, I forget, stands tall, or she who, it's, I forgot, but they all have names. And I was looking at all of their, just comparing and contrasting how we do things in each other's land and stuff like that. It was nice. It was a nice, like, I don't know, great unification. Getting all these people together and seeing how they're doing things, and see, what's decolonization for them, especially when we speak colonized languages. Uh, how do you decolonize? Well, we do this. Well, we do that. Well, we, trying to find our place.
mhm,
And we're still doing it. We meet up and talk on Discord, TikTok. A lot of it's on TikTok nowadays.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's been a great experience.
So I'm hearing like the MySpace, the TikTok, the Twitter when once it was all of these different like digital spaces. And so you've been working with them for like quite some time, and like just either have you were you like fostering some of those spaces yourself, or would you find you were more a participant?
I was hosting for a while. I was hosting Twitter live spaces where uh they were culture based. We did one because there was a problem with people from Haiti who were not educated on who we were,
Mm-hmm.
claiming us as, oh, they're an offshoot of Haitian culture, because, as you know, there was 10,000 people that came, and people don't really understand the demographics of who came, the
Mm-hmm.
dialect of Haitian Creole they spoke, which was not quite the dialect that we know today as Haitian Creole. There was It was more diverse. The dialects were more numerous back then. It was white, mixed, and fully black people who came. It wasn't just like a bunch of what we know to be Haitians today who came over. Um, there was a lot of misunderstanding. So me and a Haitian woman hosted the space together, and we talked for, gosh, man, it had to be like maybe 5 hours, and just educated people on who we were, and compare and contrasted our cultures and languages. Me, Heritage Guadeloupe, some Haitians, all these other people who spoke Creole, French-based Creole language. We were just taking turns hosting spaces and educating the masses, and they were like trilingual, English, French, and, well, I wouldn't say more than trilingual, because you had all these different Creole languages, multilingual spaces. Basically, educating the masses on who we all were and our differences and similarities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So kind of like thinking about like what we're dealing with now, and like what might be coming around the corner for all of these Creole languages, thinking about like AI and large language models and things like that. Do you have like any conversations right now about the impact of artificial intelligence when it
Yeah, we
comes to
do.
language documentation and just preservation?
Um, I'm not a big fan of AI being able to translate, create things in these languages. Um, I feel like AI can be used in maybe language preservation if it's like horribly endangered. You know what I mean? Where you need maybe something to help future generations. But
Mm-hmm.
also at the same time, we still have a lot of Creole people. Like, our language, the Creole language is endangered, but Creole people aren't endangered.
Mm-hmm.
We can still teach people. And I do feel like sometimes this AI stuff makes people lazy. Like, I've seen, especially when they don't understand our languages, I've seen people come to spaces and copy and paste stuff that they got from Chat GPT. Chat GPT doesn't know our Creole. It knows Haitian Creole, and it's been learning a little bit. I've seen it learn, and they'll throw a sentence, they'll copy and paste a sentence, and I look, and the sentence will start kind of in Louisiana Creole, and then 2 3 words in, it just goes Haitian, and I'm like, we can teach you guys how to speak this. It's not hard for us. I'll do it. I'll do it for free if you don't have
Mhm.
money for the other
Mhm.
classes and stuff that are offered. But for us, I don't really care for it, and I also like it as a secret language
Mhm.
because we get watched by whoever. I do enjoy a level of this is ours alone, our space, ours alone. You don't understand this because you're outside of this. This is something that we can do, or people who we've chosen to initiate can come and conversate in our space. But yeah, we talk about it all the time, and I had to tell some friends like don't use that Chat GPT stuff. That's not accurate. It's not our language. I hear some resources. There's free resources and stuff, and there's people who, we still host spaces where you can talk and you know we can help you. But yeah,
Mhm.
don't use it in that way. There's ways, but there's a space for AI, but not for what we have now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think that kind of goes into some of what you're talking about in terms of like our spaces and like we don't want the chat GPT and all this to kind of we don't even want it to be figured out. Like it can stay inaccurate. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
still something about communicating in spaces that we foster that is important to keep intact. And I'm thinking about like those historical examples of Jean Saint Malo and the Maroons and just kind of like we're separate and we need to have this space not just to kind of like plot or anything but just to live, just to
To
kind
live
of like maintain
and
who
be
we
us.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Maintain who we are. Yeah, that's it. That's the perfect way of saying it. Maintain who we are. Another thing too was there were these issues with the ADOS and FBA and trying to make Creoles out to be a subgroup of African American. Now I'm African American and Creole mix, but my ancestors came from North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia over here in the 1800s, early and mid 1800s, and mixed into Creole families.
Right.
So one thing that people didn't understand was like the word American and African American. That's the active word American. They didn't understand the weight of it from our side.
Mhm.
And when they would say, "Oh, you guys are just Americans that speak some kind of French," and I said, "Let me explain something to you. Words have meanings. I'm going to show you in the dictionary." And I pull up two dictionaries: the online dictionary, and then the Louisiana Creole dictionary and the Louisiana French dictionary. And I say,
Mhm.
"Look at this word American. Highlight it. Take a clipping of it. Highlight it. What does this say? Not Creole, Protestant, blah 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 blah. Do you see this? The word American means something. We were not a subgroup of any kind of Americans. We were our own thing. Okay.
Mhm.
And here's us using our language. Okay. And I would give examples. I would use language or take clippings of conversations, examples of conversations where people are using American. And that was showing people, you know, how can I say, the depth of our identity. It's not just some little branch or offshoot. It has weight. This is who we are. We're separate people. We have our own way of speaking. We have our literal own language that's named after us. It's called Louisiana Creole. Okay, so we need that. That's the importance of language. We need a space to use it, show people that it's still alive, maintain it, maintain who our identities.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I'm sitting with that because I'm thinking, and I think like the next part, the overall space I'm kind of thinking about, is that spiritual journey a part of this whole identity conversation because Um, I'm thinking about how even in our time, with all this technology and everything, that the fights that we are involved with are still very much the same fights that we've had in the 18th, 17th century and things like that. Like we haven't gotten past those times
Yeah.
um just yet. And part of that too is like when we are doing the language and the culture work, there are instances where we could even go back into those times and embody like the ancestors. I mean that's my take on it. So I just wanted to, especially kind of digging into the meaning of your shirt and everything.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thinking about like how when we're doing this work, how we're embodying the ancestors. We're not just invoking, you know. So I would like to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I wear the shirt. I have a lot of versions of that shirt, tank tops, t-shirts in different colors and stuff. And it's a lot of my ancestors became assimilated. They
Mm,
changed names, spellings of names, um, to kind of fit in. And I want to honor them in a language that was theirs to show them continuously that like you had what you spoke and how you identified has worth. And I'm gonna pass that worth on to my kids, and hopefully they keep going, further with it. But I
hmm
also want to show the world I'm not ashamed of who I am, and that I'm loud and proud about it. I made sure when I was in that Mafa procession playing my drums, I wore that shirt, and I have pictures with the flag, that was designed by Jordy, where it says that's where we got it from. Punos on set is on the flag above the magnolia flower and the
mm,
two machetes in the Afro Creole flag. Um, and also too, just in my spiritual tradition, I follow voodoo. It's an ancestral based system. I pour libations for my ancestors. I pray to my ancestors, and then we do it in groups together. We pray to everybody's ancestors.
mm,
Uh, so just in general, the concept of ancestors is important. And what was important to them is important to me.
hmm Yeah, you know, so I'm still Catholic. I still go to church when I go back to Louisiana, because you know there's Catholic being Catholic in Louisiana, there's being Catholic in New Orleans, which is like, okay, that makes sense. I
Yeah,
go into Louisiana, it's like, nah, I'm not too sure. And then when I go into like the United States, it's like, I don't know if I really belong here. I'll
yeah,
go, you know, I'll go get my ashes. I'll, you know, if I need to like pray, I'll do so in a quiet way. I don't need to hear the priest give whatever kind of homily he's got to say. But there's something about like the Catholicism outside of New Orleans that doesn't necessarily um, meet the needs for people that live away, especially in my experience.
yeah,
And so in those instances, it's it's important for me to, you know, understand like the people that are connected to the broader culture, whether it's, you know, Catholicism or the syncretized or like
yeah,
voodoo or whatever, you know, it's like they understand, they know,
yeah,
and like I can go to that and I can find some kind of way to, you know, solution for whatever it is that I'm going through. And that's what kind of nourishes me is having that, not only that spiritual connection, but a spiritual connection that's culturally aligned.
yeah. And although I am no longer Catholic, when I'm around those Catholics, it feels different. I was raised Catholic. I left, but when I'm around Catholics from New Orleans,
Hmm
Catholics from Puerto Rico, Cuba, you know where I'm going with this.
hmm
Brazil, that's a little different. That's what was it? Orange is the new black. That Puerto Rican woman goes. What she was having a conversation with another inmate, and she goes, she was doing Santeria. She goes, I thought you
hmm
said you were Catholic, and she goes, yeah, well, this is Catholic plus.
Yes,
Catholic
Catholic
plus.
Plus. Catholic
It's
Plus.
Catholic plus, you know. So
Yes,
I'm
yes. Yeah, there's a book called The Joy of Yat Catholicism, and it's about like just how the city itself, like you don't go to church, like it's just the city itself, and
yeah,
like Mary is there, and like if you want to sell your house, you put the statue of Saint Joseph in the garden and everything, and all the different things that we do, that's really kind of like it doesn't come from Catholicism, but it comes from the syncretization that happened
yes,
in the Gulf South. So I
hmm,
feel like that's like super important, because we can be looking at the same icon, but we're not looking at the same energy.
exactly.
Yeah.
That perfectly. What couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it. That's something I learned new though. You when you said you put the statue in front of the house. I did not know that.
Yeah, you gotta bury it's like Saint Joseph, and you gotta bury him like head down in the garden if you
Ah,
if you if you need to sell your house.
okay.
Um, but there were things that, in my family, like if somebody was coming to cause trouble at your house, then you put black pepper on the step, and then that'll make them go away. And there are little things like that that we do, that just it comes from somewhere. And now, regardless of where it comes from, now it's just a part of who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And
So
it's oh yeah,
yeah,
continue,
so
sorry.
no, I just wanted to, like, in our last couple of minutes, I just wanted to kind of get your reflection on like what it is to not only carry this energy right now, but to be able to pass it on to the next generation. Like, what is that like?
This culture we have that we're talking about means the world to me. It means everything. It's home. It called me. It's powerful because it called me. When I was hanging around those Brazilians and I saw how close it was, something was calling me home. I just didn't know it at that time. And then I saw it later on. I was like, yeah, I got to go home. I love it here. This is like a second home, but I got to go to my first home. And because I guess you could say before my mom passed, we had a lot of conversations, some deep conversations about cultural loss and things like that. There was things that my grandparents did that my parents' generation, so my mom and her siblings, didn't do anymore, that were from New Orleans and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. My grandmother's from New Orleans, my grandfather's from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Traditions that they used to do that none of my aunts and uncles do anymore. Words that they would say that we don't say anymore. And I said, how much did their generation before that lose? And I said, each generation, it seems like something is lost. And I said, okay, I'm a father. I have 3 kids. My wife, even though she's not from here, she's very interested in the culture. And there is still a connection because my wife's from the Philippines. And as you know, St. Malo had Filipinos there. So
Mm-hmm.
my wife still fits in. She fits into the culture. You know, Filipinos fit into our culture. They're like the Creoles of Asia to me.
Mm-hmm.
They're like cousins. So I have a wife who loves my culture. She can make red beans better than me, is hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And we have children who are now mixed, Creole, African American, Jamaican, and Filipino. And I say, I love this culture. I want to see it last. I'm giving it to them. So I speak to them in
Mm-hmm.
Creole and French. I take them to cultural events. I make sure we cook the meals at home so they know and they know they're Creole. Okay. I bring them to New Orleans. I took them to International Voodoo Day in New Orleans in April. There was a kids uh, symposium for the kids, and there was one for the adults, and they got to see both. And there was like voodoo games and coloring and all this stuff.
Oh.
Uh, there was a storybook reading.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's showing my kids meet them where they're at. So children stuff, and then showing them what's waiting for them when they get a little mature. Like I brought them to the adult symposium, and they could see, what that was like. That brought people from Benin, Haiti, other parts of the Caribbean, and Louisiana all together, talking about culture, voodoo, and things like that. Uh, so showing the next generation that your culture has worth, is worth maintaining and is worth passing on because I do know that many of our generations and the ones before didn't necessarily value it like you and I do.
Mm,
So I want to show that it is a thing of value. It's something to be proud of.
mm.
It has worth. It has weight.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's yeah, and they will I'm pretty sure that, having that example, raising them in the way that you do, they'll have that same type of eyes that we do, that they'll know they're our family on site, and they'll be good. So that's really important. Um so I know I said 45 minutes. We're a little bit over. But I really want to thank you for your time this evening. There's so much more, and we're gonna be messaging back and forth about all the stuff that we
Oh
that
yeah,
we could talk about. But I'm really grateful that we've had this intentional time to connect in this way,
yeah.
'cause
Me too. I'm
it's,
grateful too.
it's a lot.
Always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. So Tikachi Okoke, merci. And yeah, thank you so much. And for Babancha Public Access, I'm Jean-Luc Pierite. Boom. Wait.